Steve Jobs once famously said that innovation is what distinguishes a leader from a follower. But that's just the beginning. Leadership takes more than ideas and creativity. It takes communication, collaboration, and persistence. Our keynote speaker, Zoe Timms, has demonstrated all of these traits. Zoe was an undergraduate history major here at UW when she learned of an opportunity to spend a year in India through a program run by Professor Joe Elder in sociology. She thought it would be a good opportunity to learn about the history of South Central India, and it was, but it was also a life-changing opportunity to learn about poverty, community, and the value of education. Zoe returned to India after she graduated to direct the UW program there. And that's when she and a fellow alum had one of those late-night discussions that you've all had with your friends, where by 3 a.m. you've solved some really big problems in the world. But in this case, they actually had an important idea, an idea that became the Women's Education Project, a project that has helped 500 women build stronger communities, better lives, and brighter futures, all through the gift of education. And they've developed a plan that will help thousands more. I am delighted to welcome a leader and a social innovator and a proud Badger who's made a difference in the world, Zoe Timms.
Thank you, Chancellor Rebecca Blank, for the kind and generous introduction. Faculty, staff, and parents. Class of 2015, thank you for the invitation to share with you my story, so much of which is due to this great university, and to speak with you before you go to your own adventures, whatever they might be. 18 years ago, I sat where you are now at winter commencement. I had just turned in a very late paper and was excited for my diploma and brunch with my family at Mickey's Dairy Bar. Just like some of you might be doing now, I was thinking about how much I truly love this place, that so many experiences will be over, and how much I will miss it here. Bucky Badger's push-ups, our 10-pound course catalog, my lit professor in the middle of a lecture ducking under his desk for a cigarette and before coming up to discuss Jane Eyre. Tunnel Bob sightings, sledding down Bascom, the terrace, night swims in Lake Mendota, turning the observatory's massive telescope to observe the rings of Saturn. For me, this was a very special place, and I loved every moment. I was in my cap and gown when I passed in my last paper. Leaving the humanities building to go to commencement, I saw a poster asking, "Are you a history major?" It continued, "Do you know there are no jobs for history majors out there?" No jobs. That poster meant to scare me. But 4 years at Wisconsin taught me how to take advantage of the opportunities that were there. That there was no prescribed path. I could do anything. I wasn't scared, I was elated. At my commencement, I made 2 promises. One, that my life would be interesting, and 2, that I would remember this promise forever. Life has transformative moments. The first of mine was in a junior year sociology class. Professor Joe Elder, who is here today, After reading a moving poem by a Dalit, the lowest caste in India, said casually, "If you would like to study in India for the year, come speak to me." I instantly knew where I would spend my senior year. In September 1996, I stepped off a plane in Hyderabad, South India, with 6 American students to the most amazing year of my life. The curriculum, it was Professor Elder's idea that we created our own. I learned Telugu, the southern language. I interviewed farmers, temple priests, and dhobi washers for a thesis about the Musi River. Learned henna tattooing, and photographed Hindu, Muslim, and Christian weddings. These were unbelievable opportunities to immerse myself in Indian culture. Another of my classes was teaching English to 11-year-old child laborers who had just worked in factories. Many were holding a pencil for the first time. Each day at the end of my English class, held outdoors under a shady tree, I would clang a large bell to send the students to their next class, karate. One day, I dismissed the students and saw that one girl remained. Large eyes, 2 perfect braids with ribbons, proudly wearing her blue school uniform. I told her again, maybe she hadn't understood my poor Telugu. Karate class ko velindi, go to karate. Swati shook her head and looked up at me and then down at her legs. I saw one was withered from polio. She walked with a limp. "Have you ever tried?" I asked. And then we played a game to cover up my embarrassment. The next week, I rang the bell and went off to drink tea with the other teachers. After an hour, karate ended and the group barreled back in. From the middle was Swati, grinning and shouting, Zoe madam, look at me, I did it, I did karate." From her, this courageous girl, I learned you find your heroes and learn from their best moments. From her, I learned to never let anything stand in my way. Just before returning to the US, thanking the NGO director for the teaching opportunity, I told her, someday I will start my own school here. This was my moment. Your heroes, your passions are out there. If you haven't found them yet, you will. Look for them because they are everywhere. Following my graduation and my promise to lead an interesting life, I found myself not ziplining through a rainforest saving tigers, but working in a gray cubicle in New York City. But at least it was for a nonprofit. One day after 2 years, my phone rang. It was Professor Elder asking, "Would you run a study abroad program in India?" I said, "When can I start?" Again, I found myself on a new adventure thanks to Wisconsin. For the next 5 years, I lived in the southern temple city of Madurai, Tamil Nadu. My first year, I met a young woman, a translator for our Wisconsin students. She spoke 4 languages fluently and told me she wanted to get an MBA and maybe work at the UN. I assumed she was from a family who would support her, so I was surprised when she invited me home for dinner that my auto rickshaw did not take me to a middle-class neighborhood, but directly into a slum. I stepped over an open sewer and entered her small 2-room house. Her mother greeted me from the floor. She had leprosy and couldn't stand. Her father, an alcoholic, was passed out in the next room. At dinner, this bright young woman said, All I want to do is to continue my education. I just want to study. In that moment, I knew that this young woman was trapped. She was the sole income for her family. How could she possibly get an MBA? The next day was sweltering, and I was not in the slum, but in a fancy pool of a 3-star hotel, bobbing up and down with a visiting Wisconsin alum. We spoke about my experience the night before, my plan to raise money for our translator's MBA, and how there were many ambitious young women trapped by poverty. As we talked excitedly, a plan emerged. I realized this was it. This was my career. I would help these young women. I was 26 when I raised $3,000 for the MBA scholarship at a party at a bar on New York's Lower East Side. That same year, in 2002, I founded Women's Education Project and started the first center in Madurai, India. Forming the board of directors, registering our NGO with the government, each step took at least 3 visits. Signatures should be in black ink, not blue. Come back tomorrow. Dates should be on each page. Come back tomorrow. Sir is at lunch. The words, come back tomorrow, still ring in my head. Ask me anything about the Society's Registration Act of 1860 or the Foreign Contribution Registration Act of 1976, amended in 2010. Saturday nights, I drank tea with my 60-year-old accountant. He became one of my best friends. It wasn't glamorous. And the rewarding stuff? A small rented house became a women's education project center where 20 young women from poor families living on less than $1.50 a day wanted to be. Together, we developed a program based on their needs. They needed scholarships, we raised money. They needed textbooks and had never used a computer. The bedroom became a library and a computer lab. They needed tutors. The front hall became a classroom. They were malnourished. Some I found sleeping in our library. It turned out it was anemia. The kitchen soon smelled of chai and spicy, healthy food. Soon they were Bollywood dancing at tea time. They created a really happy place to be. And as they became comfortable in the center, they started talking about problems at home. The loan shark who visited last night needed to be paid for the funeral expenses and had gotten violent. The mother who had tuberculosis was too ashamed to go to the doctor. The father who had broken his leg in a farm accident and could no longer work. Their problems were real and serious. Unconsciously tapping into Professor Elder's build your own curriculum, the students, our first center director, Vijaya Lakshmi, and I formed the I Am a Leader workbook, a guide for students to plan field trips and develop life skills and discover careers. At a hospital, our students worked alongside an OBGYN to learn about women's health. At a honey farm, they helped the owner, a woman, stock hundreds of honey jars, made a hive, and prepared medicinal tea. With an organic farmer, they have planted vegetables and learned to grow a kitchen garden. They have toured museums and banks, and as I did at Wisconsin, have even turned a telescope on the rings of Saturn. As Wisconsin has taught us, they have begun to see the world as a place filled with opportunities and heroes. Women's Education Project has grown from 1 center and 20 students to 3 centers serving 300 students. It has over 500 proud alumni who are teachers, healthcare workers, laboratory technicians, computer operators, administrators, and housewives. These young women no longer belong to the 50% in India living on less than $1.50 a day. or the 15 million girls around the world who each year enter child marriage, 1 in 9 before they are 15, or the 56% of young Indian women who are malnourished. They are no longer part of the over 60% of women who remain trapped inside their homes, voiceless and unskilled. Because they have started on the path of education, when they are sick, they will find a real doctor. When their well is dry and the water truck hasn't come in 3 days, or a loan shark knocks on their door, they will face the problems with confidence and dignity. They will marry later, lead a healthier family, their children will go to school. They will begin careers and be financially independent. And ask any of them, what do you want to do? They will say, something important. I want to teach poor children. I want to be a nurse for my village. I want to help the abandoned elderly. Imagine a world in which all young women, and young men too, have the opportunity to study, to discover their own heroes, and begin a career. Imagine them farming, teaching, nursing, administrating. How many lives have they now touched? It is a ripple effect. Imagine what they will do for the world. And the young woman who inspired me to start Women's Education Project, who wanted her MBA, well, she got it. Today, she is a senior manager of financial services at one of the biggest banks in Bangalore. I'm not telling you that we are finished. Each day, I wake up and think, how can we grow Women's Education Project, open more centers, serve more young women? With some very supportive people, we have created something wonderful, but the need is huge. And because waking up thinking, how can we grow such an important idea, is honestly not romantic or fun, but a daily challenge with truly lonely moments, I turn to my heroes. We all need them. September, I was with my 9-month-old son and my wonderful mother in Bangalore, India, for a week of fundraising, board meetings, government registration, and a staff retreat. Each morning at 2 a.m., confused by the 10-hour time difference, my wide-awake, jet-lagged baby wanted to play. I messaged my husband with a self-pitying, how can I do all this? It takes 2 hours to get across Bangalore for every meeting. I have to work with my whole staff tomorrow on no sleep. I am so, so tired. I wanted sympathy and support. He sent just 3 words and signed off. Dazzle the world. 2015 graduates, this was my answer to the poster at the Humanities Building. Yes, I know there are no jobs for history majors, but there are rewarding careers. This was my story. What will yours be? You have choices, challenges, and adventures ahead. When will you meet your heroes? What will your important life decisions be? No matter what field you enter, and I know I am looking at future leaders in finance, law, education, medicine, entertainment, and business, explore your possibilities, seize your opportunities, learn from your heroes. Do what interests you, not what is expected. Make sure it is truly needed, that it is important. Get started early before you think it is impossible. Don't let anything stand in your way, because we are Badgers and Wisconsin has prepared us. Congratulations, class of 2015, on Wisconsin, and dazzle the world.